Have you ever suddenly asked yourself, have I gone too far from family, from slow meals, from my own self? This video is a mirror to your journey and a reminder, it's never too late to come back. The call to return. Imagine this, you've been walking for so long that you forgot what your front door looks like. Life at 50, 60, even 80 can feel exactly like that. You wander through years of responsibility, achievements, disappointments, and suddenly realize you've been away from yourself. Away from the slow dinners, the small rituals, the laughter at the table that once made you feel alive. That's the strange irony of aging. The more you've lived, the easier it is to forget where you started. Psychologists call this identity drift. It's when your mind slowly detaches from the roots that once grounded you. At younger ages, you're too busy running career, kids, bills to notice. But later, when the noise quiets down, the silence feels almost unbearable. Studies from Stanford show that people over 60 who maintain strong ties with family and engage in shared meals report not just greater happiness, but also longer life expectancy. The science is painfully simple. Connection nourishes. Disconnection starves. Picture this, a lonely dinner, just you and a plate in front of the TV. Compare it to sitting at a table with 2 or 3 people you love, maybe even bickering over who gets the last piece of bread. Which one feels more like living? The truth is, your brain is wired to light up around others. Oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin, those are not just chemical names, they are the sparks of human warmth. Eating alone is survival. Eating together is life, and here's the punchline, many of us have mistaken wandering for freedom, when really, it's just drifting. The real freedom comes when you return it to yourself, to your people, to the table that's been waiting all along. The lost moment. There's a peculiar kind of loneliness that sneaks up on you in your 50s, 60s, even 80s. It's not the loud loneliness of being abandoned, but the quiet one, the sense that life is moving without you, like you're a guest at your own story. You look around and think, everyone else seems busy, connected, alive, while you're left holding the remote, staring at walls that don't talk back. Psychologists describe this as role loss. When work slows down, when children move out, when the world no longer needs you in the same way, your brain struggles. It whispers, "Am I still useful?" A 2022 Canadian study found that seniors who feel socially irrelevant are 3 times more likely to experience depression. Not because they lack capability, but because they lose a sense of place. But let's be brutally honest, part of this isn't life abandoning you, it's you abandoning life. Somewhere along the way, you stopped calling, stopped visiting, stopped initiating. You convinced yourself, they're busy, they don't need me. And so the gap widens. Day by day, absence turns into habit, and habit turns into exile. Here's the kicker, your brain hates a vacuum. It starts filling that empty space with doubts, fears, regrets. That's why the silence at home feels heavier than it should. Not because the room is empty, but because your thoughts echo too loudly inside it. The good news? Feeling lost isn't proof that you failed. It's proof that you're human. And like any wanderer, the moment you notice you're lost is also the moment you can turn around. Loneliness is not a dead end, it's a signpost pointing you back toward connection. So ask yourself, when was the last time you sat down for a meal without rushing, without excuses, just being fully present with another human being? If you can't remember, that's not a tragedy. That's your invitation. The brain and slow meal memories. Here's a quirky fact. Your brain doesn't care about the fancy vacations you took, or the expensive gadgets you bought. What it really clings to are the smells of soup simmering, the sound of forks clinking, and the awkward jokes told around the dinner table. Neuroscientists call this episodic memory the brain's scrapbook of moments tied to emotions. And family meals, especially the slow ones, are some of the deepest ink stains in that scrapbook. Why? Because eating together is one of the few activities that engages nearly every sense at once. Taste, smell, sight, sound, touch, all wrapped in emotional context. That's why you might forget what you had for breakfast last Tuesday, but you'll never forget your grandmother's chicken soup, or the way your father always cut bread with that one stubborn knife. A Harvard study showed that seniors who regularly recalled positive family meal experiences had lower rates of cognitive decline. In simple terms, your brain uses those warm dinner memories like fuel to keep running smoothly. Imagine your neurons as little storytellers, sitting around a fire. Each time you recall a family meal, they pass the story around, strengthening their bonds. That's literally how memory works. Repetition builds resilience. The opposite is also true. If you stop creating those shared meals, your brain's scrapbook starts to look empty, and that emptiness can feed feelings of isolation. Here's the fun twist: slow meals are basically a workout for your brain. When you chew slowly, when you actually talk between bites, when you pause to listen, your nervous system shifts into rest and digest mode. Stress hormones drop. Digestion improves. Even your heart rate calms down. It's like your body saying, finally, we're not at war with time. So the next time you think sitting alone with a quick sandwich is harmless, remember this: it's not just your stomach that's hungry. It's your memory, your mind, your sense of belonging. And nothing fills that hunger quite like the stories and flavors shared at a slow family meal. The story of the old wooden table. Let me tell you a story. There was once a family who had an old, scratched wooden table. It wasn't pretty. One leg wobbled, the varnish was long gone, and no one ever posted it on Instagram. But that table had survived birthdays, arguments, spilled wine, broken plates, and endless laughter. And for years, it was the only thing holding that family together. Then came the drift. The kids grew up and left. The parents got busy. Holidays became phone calls instead of dinners. The table stood there, waiting, like a loyal dog. Dust gathered. Silence replaced the clatter of dishes. And one day, someone said, maybe we should just get rid of it. But here's the twist: they didn't. Because when the family finally gathered again, at first awkwardly, out of guilt more than desire, something magical happened. The wobble of that table, the scratches, the familiar creak when you lean too hard on one side, it all came rushing back. Stories poured out. Arguments softened. Even the silence between words felt warmer because the table had been a witness to it all. That's the thing about rituals like meals: they don't just feed you, they anchor you. Psychologists call it context-dependent memory. The environment itself, the table, the chairs, even the smell of old wood, it triggers emotions and memories that reconnect you to each other. A University of Toronto study showed that families who eat together at least 3 times a week report stronger bonds and higher resilience during crises. In other words, the table is not furniture. It's glue. So maybe your version isn't a wooden table. Maybe it's a backyard bench, a particular couch, or the corner booth at a cheap diner. Whatever it is, it's waiting for you. And the moment you return, you'll realize you weren't just missing food. You were missing yourself in the company of others. Punchline? The table didn't need fixing. The people did. The science of living slow. Here's something ironic. Modern life has convinced us that speed equals progress. Fast food, fast internet, fast everything. But the truth? Your body is a machine designed for slowness. When you rush meals, rush conversations, rush through days, you're literally forcing your nervous system into a permanent panic mode. Scientists call it the sympathetic state, fight or flight. It's useful if a bear walks into your living room, but disastrous if it's activated 3 times a day over dinner. A Canadian Heart Institute study revealed that seniors who practiced mindful, slow eating had significantly lower blood pressure and reduced risk of heart disease. All because chewing slowly and breathing between bites signals to the body, "We're safe now." Think of it this way: eating fast is like shoving groceries into a fridge without opening the shelves. Everything gets jammed, nothing fits, and something always spoils. Eating slowly? That's unpacking carefully, letting every system, digestion, circulation, even memory find its place. And here's the kicker: slowing down meals also slows down time. Not in a sci-fi sense, but in how your brain perceives the moment. When you linger at the table, when you actually taste your food, when you laugh at a silly story before the next bite, your brain encodes that memory with richer detail. In short, slow equals lasting. Japan, where average life expectancy is among the highest in the world, has a cultural principle called hara hachi bu, eat until you're 80% full. Combined with slow communal meals, it's one reason their elders remain sharp and resilient well into their 80s and 90s. The science backs it. Slowness is longevity. So, the next time you feel guilty for wasting an extra 30 minutes at the dinner table, flip the script. You're not wasting time. You're investing it in health, in memory, in connection. Because a rushed life is forgettable, but a slow one leaves fingerprints in the soul. Punchline? You don't need a new diet. You need to chew. A small ritual to begin again. You don't need a grand reunion or a Michelin star meal to reclaim connection. Sometimes all it takes is one tiny ritual. Psychologists call these behavioral anchors. Simple, repeated actions that stabilize your sense of belonging. And here's the secret: your brain doesn't care how small they are. It only cares that they happen consistently. Maybe it's Sunday soup night. Maybe it's Tuesday tea time. Maybe it's calling your granddaughter every Thursday at 7 p.m. The ritual itself is less important than the repetition. A study from the University of British Columbia found that seniors who maintained just one consistent family ritual reported lower anxiety and higher life satisfaction. In other words, one bowl of soup can beat 10 therapy sessions. Here's a practical tip: start with food. Food has always been the easiest invitation. Instead of saying, "Let's fix our relationship," which sounds terrifying, try, "Come over, I made too much stew." No one argues with stew. And once the table is set, the conversation follows naturally. The beauty of rituals is that they outlive mood. You don't need to feel like connecting in order to do it. You just show up, the way you brush your teeth without debating whether it's worth it. And over time, those small actions build a rhythm that makes isolation nearly impossible. Think about it. What if your table, your kitchen, your porch became the anchor point others look forward to each week? What if you became the excuse for them to slow down? That's not just feeding people. That's weaving yourself back into the fabric of their lives. A punchline? Rituals aren't about food. They're about reminding everyone, including you, that you still belong at the table. When you become the storyteller. Here's the twist about aging that nobody tells you: your true power doesn't shrink, it shifts. You may not run as fast, work as long, or juggle 10 things at once anymore, but you carry something nobody else can buy: stories. And in every culture, stories are currency. Think about it. Kids may roll their eyes at your back in my day tales, but their brains are quietly soaking it in. A 2021 study from McGill University found that intergenerational storytelling, grandparents sharing life lessons with grandchildren, significantly reduced loneliness in seniors and boosted empathy in younger generations. Translation? Your voice is medicine, both for you and for them. Here's the magic part: the dinner table isn't just for eating, it's for passing on the torch. When you tell that awkward story of your first job, or the time you almost burned the kitchen down, you're not just filling silence. You're planting roots in their memory. Years later, they'll retell it, maybe laugh at it, maybe even draw strength from it when life throws them the same chaos. And don't underestimate the humor of your own history. Self-deprecating tales, the mistakes, the embarrassing moments, connect even deeper than the polished ones. Neuroscience shows that laughter during storytelling releases oxytocin, the same bonding chemical as a warm hug. So yes, every time you make someone laugh at your expense, you're literally gluing your family closer together. Here's the punchline: when you speak, you don't just keep the past alive. You keep yourself alive in their hearts. You stop being the old one in the corner and become what you were always meant to be: the storyteller, the keeper, the thread, and maybe that's the greatest role you'll ever play. Coming home is never too late. Here's a truth that might sting a little: you can't rewind life, but you can always turn it around. No matter how many birthdays have passed, how many chairs around your table have gone empty, it is never too late to return. The mistake most people make is assuming that returning requires some grand gesture. It doesn't. It just requires you showing up. One call. One meal. One shared laugh. Psychologists call this the fresh start effect. Even small markers, a holiday, a season change, a decision to invite someone over, can reset your brain's sense of beginning. Think of it like planting a seed in late autumn. It might look pointless, but given time, it sprouts in spring. The same goes for relationships. You don't need perfect timing, you just need to plant. And here's what's beautiful: the people around you, even if they seem distant, are usually waiting for you more than you realize. That son who barely calls? He remembers your cooking. That neighbor you rarely greet? She'd probably love to share coffee. Everyone is hungry for connection, they're just waiting for someone to break the silence. Why not you? So ask yourself, when was your last slow meal with family? Or even just with one person who matters? If you can't remember, today is the perfect day to make a new memory. Because the path home isn't behind you, it's right under your feet. Punchline? Coming back doesn't make you weak. It makes you whole.